The Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Real Doctor Who fans with real Doctor Who opinions.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast, a podcast dedicated to discussing and reviewing all things Doctor Who, Big Finish, and other science fiction stuff that tickles our fancy. In this podcast, I'm going to be looking at and breaking down the latest news from Big Finish, which is, I guess, Big Finish taking over the Christmas time. Yes, since there is no new Doctor Who show on TV, Big Finish has announced that they are going to have a special Halloween and Christmas special. And I'm going to dive into all that takes up, as well as my thoughts on the future of Big Finish and Doctor Who, because I think this is amazing. I will say I do have some concern, but I'm going to just walk through that during this podcast. Please remember to email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. You can tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. And without further ado, I'm going to get into this news that was released on the 15th of August, 2025. And that is, let's just see. Let me just pull it up. It says, to mark the autumn and winter 2025 holidays, it should say, to mark the first time that the new show has been in existence and there hasn't been a Christmas episode, Big Finish Productions is releasing a box set. It says Big Finish production is releasing 2 box sets of full cast audio dramas starring characters from across the Whoniverse. And so you do have this, picture of, looks like the TARDIS that has some stuff growing on it, I guess. Kind of very similar to that, was it the Groundhog's Day one of, anyway. And then you have a Dalek that has basically Christmas colors. You have reds and greens colored Dalek. So, happy Dalek Christmas to you. I wish you a happy extermination day, I guess. The news says a new range of festive Doctor Who audio dramas will see the doctors, companions, and other characters from the history of the series appear in a special full cast themed stories around Halloween and Christmas. So again, I will tell you, it's quite interesting because for the longest time, people who, purchase Big Finish or whatnot, you always had Dorian Gray to fall back upon. That was generally the release that was going to be done around October. I did appreciate that they would just kind of release an episode, once a week or something like that. And then for some reason, and it was so funny because it was never supposed to be a box set. It was just only digital downloads. And then people started getting annoyed at this. So then they created the first Dorian Gray box set to sell as CDs. And now as we look forward, every single thing has a limited CD run of about 1,500 releases, which is a shame. But I totally understand. I just wish that they would mark down the price of the digital copy by, maybe £5 or so or something like that. Just because, the jeweled case, the cost that it is to have the CD art on the CD, as well as having the company, imprint all of those audios on a CD. Now, the CD itself is not that expensive, but it's kind of interesting to think about drawing relative comparison with comic books and also Big Finish stuff, is because Big Finish or comic books, you can buy a physical copy of a comic book for $3.99 or $4.99, depending on, some of them or whatnot. Then you have the special ones. By the way, not important to this whole discussion. However, you can go on to Comixology and buy the same thing digitally, but they take 10% off. So, a comic that is $3.99 you'd be able to pick it up for, $3.79. And the rationale for it is well, there are no what is it? There are no ads in it. I don't believe they're allowed to have their ads in there. Well, shouldn't you also reduce it even further? Because there is no, physical copy. I mean, right now I am selling some of my comics and stuff like that. And, I'm not I'm either A, breaking even or B, slightly losing money. But you know what? Everything is, at least netting me something compared to if I just owned it digitally. Owning it digitally, I can't sell the digital file. And kind of the same thing with Big Finish. However, because of the massive amount of uh, payment that I have to incur because of international shipping fees, I just have to, if I want to own it, I either A, have to buy it off of a secondhand owner from eBay or whatnot, or wait for some gigantic sale, which because of the limited amount of when did this turn into talking about multimedia and physical media versus anyway, that was weird. So yeah, there is my tangent that I went down some weird rabbit hole for. We're back to the original purpose at hand, which is talking about the Halloween and Christmas. So again, where I was talking about Dorian Gray and how it was a traditional release around October. Then, at least for Big Finish, you used to have those four-part stories for part of their main range, each episode being anywhere from 25 to 29 minutes or so. And that generally was released around Christmas time for many years until they stopped doing it. Again, if you listen to old episodes of the podcast, we presumed that the main purpose for doing that was to set up this whole box set type of a situation. Again, I digress once again. I do like the idea of a Christmas episode, but I also don't like the idea of it too. I feel as though because with the TV show, most of the episodes were relatively light. You had the Dream Crabs, which I feel as though was like Alien, which was probably the darkest one out of them all. And then let's see. I hate Christmas Invasion. I can't even give Christmas Invasion a nod to being, high quality or whatnot. It was a regeneration story and set at Christmas. So, the stakes were extremely low going into it. The article continues. It says, then Big Finish listeners will be treated to not one Doctor Who Christmas special. Take that TV series, but four from an English village in 1962. So a year before the first Doctor goes to meeting Susan, or it's not Susan, Ian and whatever, brain not working, to an asteroid on the edge of the Great War. Yuletide is celebrated in many forms across time and space, but beneath the snow and tinsel, there is danger to be confronted. Okay. Um, uh, so, I mean, yeah, I'm going to be curious how well this sells and if this is something that is going to, if this is, I feel as though currently this does a good job of supplanting or surpassing the non-TV Christmas special. I think I would more be into Doctor Who Halloween because I do think science fiction and horror really tie close together. Whereas you have science fiction Christmas and everything, generally just gets sorted out at the very end of the episode or whatnot. And everybody has a candy cane and lollipop. And a good time was had by all. So it says Doctor Who Halloween, Sea Smoke, and Other Stories. Oh boy, that's always a favorite of mine. I need to see if, because they have not said what the running time of this is. So I will click on the Halloween because each one of these should be 1 hour, especially because of the price, $33.89 for here. Yeah, so 240 minutes. So yeah, that would be, you know, that would be an hour a piece. So I do appreciate that because whenever I see other stories, it's like, oh boy, we're going back to the main range where we have 4 25-minute episodes where at least 3 of them don't matter. And one of them is fun. Generally. Generally. I do say generally. Let's see. And then you have Doctor Who, It's a Wonderful War, and other stories now available to pre order. So, and then obviously they're all in CD box sets that are strictly limited to 1,500 copies each and will not be repressed. Okay. So the 4 stories for Halloween are Sea Smoke, a First Doctor and Dodo Adventures written by Jonathan Sims. Now, I don't believe Jonathan Sims has written for Big Finish before, or is it somebody else? He doesn't have a hot link to his name. So I'm going to go with, oh, wait, no. He's most known for the popular podcast, The Magnus Archives. That's right. I decided to subscribe to that podcast just to see, as a preliminary, to see if the writing quality or whatnot is any good. Kind of like, if it's good, I believe in him. Then you have Party Favors, a Kate Stewart and Osgood adventure. Oh boy, not excited for that. Written by Georgia Cook. The Bramble King, an Eighth Doctor and Audacity adventure. So that's in current continuity with the Eighth Doctor. And Merlin's Trap. Oh, Liam should be yelling and screaming right now because it is obvious who the Merlin Trap should be starring. And it is not. Merlin Trap is a 12th Doctor adventure by Hannah Kennedy. And I don't see Hannah Kennedy's name. Let's see. Oh, she's the new writing prize winner. So let's see. A BAFTA Radcliffe new writing prize winner, Hannah Kennedy. So she won a prize. She's using the 12th Doctor, which again, for all of you playing at home, is wrong. If you are going to do a Merlin story and entitle it Merlin Trap, who do you have to use? You have to use the 7th Doctor. That is the correct answer. We'll have to see. And then, the Bramble King is done by Noga Fashion. Let me just see what they have done. I'm going to click on them, and it looks like they have done a couple of. Why are they tied heavily to the Jodie Whittaker? Producer. Okay, so they are the producer of the 13th Doctor Adventures. Yeah, but what have you done? So producer. So the first one that we have is War Doctor Comrade. Okay. A Mother's Love. Okay. Oh, that one's an okay one. Okay. All right. I just like to know because again, I don't feel as though all writing talent is created equal. Just because you are deemed a writer doesn't mean you're deemed a good writer. See the Chris Chibnall and RTD Part 2 eras and some of the Moffat eras, and see just generally episodes in general. Let's see. So it says the cast in this box includes Stephen Noonan as the First Doctor, Lauren Cornelius as Dodo, Gemma Redgrave as Kate Stewart, Ingrid Oliver as Osgood, Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor, and Jay Griffiths as Audacity. So the question also is this Merlin Trap, which is a 12th Doctor story, is this going to be the 12th Doctor played by what's his face, who does the 11th Doctor and 12th Doctor and sometimes the 10th Doctor? Or is this going to be an audiobook? Because again, well, if you're going to do that, you might as well, again, have just done the 7th Doctor, especially because as a Doctor Who fan, we all know who was accused of being Merlin. That is the 7th Doctor. Me and Liam got into a really fun not argument, well, kind of an argument, but it was fun. At least I had fun. It was a one-sided fun. Let's see. And the four festive Christmas tales are Unholy Night, a Missy adventure by Noga Fasham. So now they are doing a second one. Legacy of Blood, a Sixth Doctor and Leela adventure. That's interesting. A Sixth Doctor and Leela adventure. And then we have Presence of Mind, which is a Smith and Sullivan adventure, so that we can get, people more into the Smith and Sullivan box set. I presume this is written by Mark Wright, and it's a wonderful war, a Time War era Eighth Doctor adventure by Jonathan S. Powell. So the information on this says the cast of It's a Wonderful War and Other Stories includes Michelle Gomez as Missy, excellent. Colin Baker as the Sixth Doctor, Louise Jameson as Leela, Sadie Miller as Sarah Jane, Christopher Naylor as Harry Sullivan, John Leeson as K9, Annette Badlands as Aunt Lavina, Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor, and Nick Briggs as the Daleks. So I'm going to guess that the Legacy of Blood, I think it would be really fun if you had the Daleks interwoven into most of the stories and making it kind of at times a diet war doctor story or time war story. And also, yeah. But, and then with the war doctor concluding at the very end. But I think I think Legacy of Blood would probably be, I'm going to guess that sounds like a Dalek story. It's a Wonderful War obviously sounds like a Dalek story, but I think it'd be kind of fun if it was interwoven throughout the whole box set. Halloween producer Noga Fasham says, a horror is my bread and butter, and getting to work on it with Big Finish and some horrifying new writers. Yeah, you're right. I do agree that brand new writers can be horrifying because they don't have the 25, 30-minute episode from the main range to, cut their teeth on, or they're not being kind of shouted out for, kind of like John Dorney. I feel as though John Dorney got his start from one of the short, other stories type of situation, which I believe his first one was from Demons of Red Lodge and Others, which his was special features, where it took place at a cast and crew commentary, which was just smart and fantastic. You don't seem to have those. Whatever these writers are doing is being done behind the scenes, and you don't really have the fans to be able to, say yay or nay. You have the crew of Big Finish saying yay or nay, which could be good and also bad because, they might force somebody to have a job that doesn't deserve to have a job. I know that could sound not nice, but you know what? When I want a good story, I want a good story. I don't want a good story because people like this person. I want them to be a good story because they are a good writer with good ideas. Let's see. All right. Yes, it makes me scary. Let's see. And letting them run is a rare delight in this industry. I think we've created something truly bone-chilling. And Christmas producer Jonathan S. Powell said, Big Finish's Doctor Who audio dramas have long been part of the Christmas season. False. No. I mean, there's been Christmas themes. They haven't all landed on Christmas. Would see back to sometimes when there was a subscriber special, way back in the day where, we did get more at bigfinish.com. We've kind of most recently gotten a lot less. I mean, the best thing that we could say is we do have a functional website, and an app, so that's a plus. I mean, that was about a year ago at this time. That whole dumpster fire. Wow. Time certainly does fly. Let's see. And yeah, boasting a powerhouse of talent across the universe, These 4 festive delights are packed with terror, laughter, danger, and Daleks. Okay, so it sounds like the Christmas one's going to have more Daleks than standard. Like any good chocolate box, I can't wait for listeners to gather around the fire with their robot dogs, tear open the wrapping paper with their fangs, and dive right in. Could you? Yeah. Big Finish listeners can save money by pre-ordering the Halloween and Christmas box sets together. And all above the prices, blah, 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 multi-blah, our fixed number of that guaranteed to ship no later than the 31st of September or December. All right. So I think that's going to be quite interesting. I think for this, I think as of continuity, again, one of the things that I think I really struggle with regarding some of these box sets and some of these, 4-part short ones and these ones is the likeliness of these interconnecting with the main story or the main canon and continuity. I just feel as though that they're just fun one-offs that rarely, get delved into anything bigger. You could say for the Halloween special, the Sea of Smoke, which is a First Doctor and Dodo story, could have some references because the First Doctor and Dodo box set party favors with Kate Stewart and Osgood. Well, I think we're done with the unit box sets because those things just I did not like. The Bramble King with Eighth Doctor and Audacity. Again, I think it has standing power. Merlin Trap is going to be a standalone. Like there is no interconnectiveness with that whatsoever going forward, I believe. Unholy Night, a Missy adventure, could connect to the Missy box set, but I'm just going to say mostly it's just going to be a standalone Missy thing. Legacy of Blood, a Sixth Doctor and Leela adventure. Again, if you tie that into the Time War, I feel as though that could have a lasting power. I think if not, it's just going to be a fun, one and off. Presence of, no. I was going to say Jago Lightfoot, but never mind. Presence of Mind with Sullivan and Smith. I can't imagine that, especially if you're going to have a Worlds of Doctor Who. I don't think you can actually tie it heavily into the Smith and Sullivan box set or vice versa. I feel as though that has a niche audience. And unless they really want to interconnect it with the Sullivan and Smith box set for their niche audience, which again is part of the Worlds of Doctor Who, but not everybody is going to pick it up. I don't think I am. I'm pretty sure I won't unless it comes, on a massive discount for, Big Finishmas. And then It's a Wonderful War by the Eighth Doctor. That one does speak to me. That is a really, I think the Christmas box set has a lot more stronger pull towards it for me than the Halloween one, which is a shame because I do like horror. And like I said earlier, that Halloween and Doctor Who with science fiction does lend itself better to horror. I would love that if most of these also, if for Christmas, would lend themselves to horror and not be just light cookie cutter episodes. But with that being said, I'm going to conclude this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. What are you most anxious for? Please email the show, tweet the show. DMs are open. We'd love to hear from you. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. It does help somewhat. I would love to hear your thoughts. You can post your comments on there. And until next time, we will see you in time.
You have been listening to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Doctor Who is owned and trademarked by the BBC. Doctor Who Alhambra is not affiliated with the BBC or Big Finish. No infringement is intended. Visit our website at alhambrapodcast.weebly.com or email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet us at Alhambra Podcast. That is ALHAMBRA Podcast. Thank you.